All right, so you're going to really enjoy this week's lesson. It's a lot of fun to play. You can do this on acoustic or electric guitar, and the cool thing is you don't need a jam track. So you just grab your guitar and follow along, and you'll be able to do this. It's really not that difficult. We're going to take everything that I played in the intro and break it all down, but the real point of this is not just to have a composition to play, it's to understand these transition chords that are used in between the main chords. So we're going to take a 1-4-5 blues, your standard blues, and we're going to introduce these diminished chords and things to just sort of make it sound more sophisticated. That's really what this lesson's all about, is to give you those kinds of ideas. And you'll see that it's pretty simple. It follows a pretty simple logic, and once you understand how to do it, you'll be able to do it whether you're writing or you're improvising. So I've got this lesson split into 2 parts. In this video, we'll go through the first half. If you'd like to learn the second half of the song, as well as download the tablature, and also access the on-screen tab viewer, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP445. Okay, I know I'm going to get a question about this guitar every time I use it. Somebody asks, and this guitar is it's a 1950-something Vega Odell, and I don't know much about Vega guitars. You know, I know that they made banjos and I think other instruments, maybe even mandolins, but they did some guitars in the 50s, kind of these, you know, hollow body kind of things, arch tops. But I've never really seen another one, and I've even looked online, and I haven't been able to find a lot of information about them. But every time I play it, somebody's always asking if I'd want to sell it, or you know where I got it, or those kinds of questions. I always find that interesting. It's just a cool guitar to play, and it's a total dream. I mean, it plays like it's completely effortless in terms of the amount of pressure you have to put down. The action is perfect, the intonation is perfect, and really what makes it is this pickup. It's a D. Armand pickup, which is just, it's got the perfect sound for the blues. You know, breaks up in the right way. So anyway, that's what the guitar is, Vega Odell. Okay, so we're going to take a 1-4-5. We're going to be playing this song in the key of E, and so we can think of, let's go through the chords then. So if we're playing the key of E, our 1 chord is an E, our 4 chord is an A, and our 5 chord is a B, or B7. So 1, 4, 5, E, A, B. And that's our spine of the song. Now we're going to introduce some chords to that and make it sound more interesting, but that's kind of the, you know, really the backbone of this whole thing is that 1-4-5, the E, A, and the B. Okay, let me play a little bit of the first part just so we can get it in our ear, we can get familiar with what we're going to do, and then we'll break it down. Okay, so that 1 chord is an E, and the first thing that I played goes, okay? That's your opening little fill lick. Now let me show you how to play this. Easy to do. It's really just sliding into the 3rd fret 2nd string, and then you're also playing the open 1 string. So you're playing those 2 notes together, all down strokes, and then you slide down to the 2nd fret, and then play strings 2 and 1 open. So it's just like that. And then you can go into your E chord. That's kind of setting it up, and then you go into the chord. Now there's a little sidebar I just want to mention here when I say sidebar, like a little you know, extra chunk of knowledge here around these first 2 strings when you're playing in the key of E. So I love the fact that I can play really any of the notes between the 5th fret all the way down to open. So 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, or open. Any of those notes are going to work if you play them along with the open 1 string as a fill lick. Because you can do things like, or you can go, you know, you've heard all of these kind of blues licks, and they just sort of happen around those first 2 strings. Jimmy Vaughn uses this quite a bit. Now he'll capo to get the same licks, but he's using this kind of, that doubling up of that E note. It just makes it sound that much fuller and fatter. And when you can walk down with the other notes, it's just kind of a cool effect. Anyway, that's how I started. It was, okay, so after that, while those 2 notes are ringing out, we're going to hit the open E on the 6th string, and then it went. So I'm going to let that low E string ring out. And what I'm doing is I'm just playing an E chord, you can think of it that way, and just hammering on the index finger or the first fret, third string. And then open 2, open 1. So all together that first lick goes. Right? Pretty simple. Now we're hanging out on the E for a while until we get to the 4 chord, which is our A. A typical format then would be to play an E and then play the E7 and then the A. See how that creates a tension and a release? E, E7. There's a little extra tension to the E chord, and then we release the tension. We let the air out of the tire a little bit by going to the 4 chord. So let's go to that E7 then. See, that's all I'm doing there is I'm just going to the E7 chord. But I'm doing it by playing a little melody. I'm kind of picking the notes out like this. And it creates like a singing line basically. So while I'm holding down that E chord there, I'm going to hit the open 1 string, the 2nd string, which is also open. My pinky then comes to the 2nd fret, 2nd string, and then comes up to the 3rd fret, 2nd string. And that would be, if you introduce that note to your E chord, you're playing an E7, E dominant 7. And then after I hit that, I went 4, 3, 2. 4, 3, 2 out of the E7 chord. So it goes. All right, let's take it from the beginning. Then it goes. All right, now we're going to go to the A chord or our 4 chord. Now I went. So it's just a walk up. Again, creating that melody line, but really just doing it by using the chords. So that's the open 2nd string, 1st fret 2nd string, and then we're going to play 3rd fret 2nd string, but I'm barring the first 4 strings when I do that. Like this. And then I'm going to play the open 5th string. And really it's just all the notes of the A chord. 5, 4, 3, 2. So from the beginning we have. There's your 4 chord. Now, what you would typically do is you'd stay on the 4 chord, and then you go back to the 1 chord. But there's an in-between chord, and you got to know this one. So when you're going in a blues from the 4 back to the 1 chord, what you do is you take the 4 chord and you play the 4 sharp diminished chord. It's actually the 4 sharp diminished 7. So if our 4 chord is an A, so you play an A sharp diminished 7, and it would sound like this. Right? And if we're playing bar chords, like with the E shape, it would look like this. Right? So that's what I did then. I went from the A to the A sharp diminished 7, and then back to the E. So it sounds like this. Okay, let me show you what I'm doing for that. I've got my ring finger and my middle finger on the 2nd fret, strings 2 and 4. And I'm also playing that open 3rd string. So that's really just an A7, right? But then we're going to introduce this A sharp note here with our index finger, which is the 1st fret, 5th string. And that's how I played it. 5, 4, 3, and then 2 and 1. I think that's how I did it. So we have. Right? And then right back to that strings 1 and 2 thing that I was just mentioning. Another lick. It's just a little walk down. So it's 5, 4, 2, open on the 2nd string, but you're also playing the open 1 string. Okay, let's back it up then from the beginning and play everything up to that point. Okay, now we're back to the E. Okay, now here is where it gets interesting. So typically what you do in a 1-4-5 is you'd be at the E, then you go to the 5, which is your B, and then back to the 1. So you have 1, 5, 1. But what I'm going to play, once we come to this E, it's this whole walk down, turnaround thing. All right, so what's going on there is we're going to be playing the 5 chord of the 5 chord of the 5 chord and then getting back to the 1 chord. Now that sounds really confusing, but it's very logical once you get your head around this. I'm going to put up a lesson on the screen right now. This is a lesson that I did on secondary dominant chords, and that's really what this is a series of secondary dominant chords. And so that lesson goes into a little more detail about this, and it's not difficult. You can do this. Okay, so here's how this works. We're going to ask ourselves first, what is the 5 chord of E? Now remember, the song is in the key of E, so our 1 chord is an E chord. So what is the 5 chord of that 1 chord? Well, the answer to that is it's a B. B is our 5 chord of an E. B is the 5 chord of an E, I should say. Now, if you don't know how to find that, here's a quick formula for it. Just find whatever chord you're trying to find the 5 chord of, find it on the 5th string. So if I want to find the 5 chord of an E, I find where an E is on the 5th string, and it's the string right below it. That's just a quick, easy way to do it, quick reference. So if that's our E note, then that's our B note. That means that's the 5 chord of that chord, right? So that's one way to do it. Okay, so that's the premise. So then, the song's in the key of E, so what's the 5 chord of E? It's a B. So then the next question is, well, what's the 5 chord of the 5 chord? What's the 5 chord of B? Well, so let's do the little formula. Here's our B on the 2nd string. What's the chord underneath it? Okay, it's an F sharp. So F sharp 7 must be the 5 chord of the B chord, which is our 5 chord. And then you have to ask yourself one more time, well, what's the 5 chord of the 5 chord? What's the 5 chord of F sharp? So you find your F sharp on your 5th string, and you go drop down. That's your note. So it's a C sharp. So C sharp 7 is the 5 chord of F sharp 7, which is the 5 chord of B 7, which is the 5 chord of E. Now that seems very convoluted, I understand, but that's that standard turnaround you hear in a lot of ragtime, you hear it in jazz, you hear it in blues. It's this thing. It's a really fun little turnaround, and if you want to know what that is with numbers, you can think of it as the 1-6 major, not 6 minor, 2 major, not 2 minor, 5 and 1. So that's another way to think of it. 1, 6 major, 2 major, 5, 1. However you want to do it. But the bass notes for it, once you get the bass notes in your head, it all makes sense. It's like... So if we were to do that in the key of G, it's like this. Right? Just get that sound, that sound in your head. Okay, so that's what the turnaround is, and that's the one we use in this song. So after I play the E, I played the C sharp 7. Now you know where it comes from. And then I played the F sharp 7. When I played that, I hammered on with my middle finger. It's a good way to do that. So you're just playing like, just think of it as your major bar chord there, but take your pinky out to get that 7. And then we play the B7, and then down to your E. So just real subtle, real simple. I'm not strumming it hard. I'm not playing anything fancy with my right hand. Just 2 each. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then, and this is a really fun turnaround that I use quite a bit. 5th fret, 5th string with your middle finger, and then your index finger is on the 4th fret, 3rd string, and I'm picking on the 5th string, and I'm plucking with my ring finger on the 4th string. That's how I do it. And you just walk that shape down. Oh, and I'm also hitting the open 1 string. And then a little little hammer on there. And then there's your walk up back to your B7, which is your 5 chord. Open 5th, 1st fret, 2nd fret, 5th string. Make sure you play that with your middle finger so that you can play the chord. And then we go into the second part. Now I'm going to leave that second part for the part 2 video, but hopefully you've got some ideas for some transition chords that are outside of just the boring old 1-4-5. So now when you come to a blues song and you're at the 5 chord, you could just go into the 5 chord, back to your 1 chord, or if you really want to spice it up, you could play the 6 major, 2 major, then the 5 and then 1. Now what's really cool is if you're playing lead, you can trace the notes of those. So anyway, that's probably for another lesson. Let's back up and play through this one more time, and then I'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the second half. So you have